The debt ceiling negotiations are the talk of Washington this week as Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy looks to pass legislation to raise the debt ceiling either by $1.5 trillion or through March of next year, while also cutting some of the spending proposed in President Biden's budget. Though the bill known as the Limit, Save, Grow Act of 2023 will save more than $4 trillion, it will not reduce our growing national debt. But will it put us on a better path? Joining me now to discuss this and more, Congressman Dan Bishop. He serves on the House Homeland Security Committee and the House Judiciary Committee. He represents the 8th Congressional District of North Carolina. Congressman Bishop, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Tony. I'm glad to have a chance to talk about this important piece of legislation with you.
Well, jump right in. And I know that the speakers actually garnered the support of the conservative element, seeing a pathway forward of cutting some spending and putting us on a sustainable path. Tell us about it.
Speaker McCarthy deserves real credit, Tony. He's followed through on what we agreed to in January and set out as our guiding principles: limit, save, grow. So we've got immediate limits in spending. It cuts the $500 billion for the student loan giveaway that Biden went unauthorized and purported to have done. But saves, pulls back some money from COVID that has not been obligated. There are a lot of very substantial immediate cuts but the big financial piece that happens immediately is we're bicamerally, if this is agreed to with the Senate and the President, we would return to fiscal year 2022 levels of discretionary spending. That'll be tough to do, but it's viable. We need to cut woke and weaponized government. It'll have that effect, and then we'll limit that increase over the next 10 years at 1% per year. You put all that together with the grow part. So all these things we need to turn the fiscal ship of state, and we'll do that. But the grow is to adopt the REINS Act, which would require Congress to approve major regulations before they go into effect, have this massive impacts on the economy, and restore and expand, I guess, work requirements for those who receive benefits in terms of SNAP, the food stamps, and all the way through to Medicaid. Will have a positive fiscal effects. It'll also be good for people who need a hand up, not a handout. So that's the package. And it opens the door on a negotiation. As you played the clip, President Biden and Chuck Schumer have been trying to say, just let us keep recklessly spending on a uniparty basis. That's what's led us to this point. We're hitting the debt ceiling because Democrats spent trillions of dollars on a party line basis, and the debt limit has to expand in order to keep things from going kaflooey, but it doesn't mean we have to keep spending the same way or keep having the same undisciplined, lunatic, unsustainable approach to fiscal policy. And so Speaker McCarthy's doing the responsible thing. I'm very pleased to see that 218 Republicans will pass this on the floor of the House. They said we couldn't get it done. We will get it done. And then it'll be time to come to an agreement across both chambers and with the President of the United States to turn the fiscal ship of state in a positive direction for a change.
So let me make sure I understand this, Congressman Bishop. So, going back to the pre-COVID spending levels, basically what happened during COVID, we allocated, we should say government allocated trillions of dollars of spending to address that quote unquote crisis. But then they've just absorbed that into the baseline spending. So it's like you're in your family budget, you get an emergency loan, and you factor that into your family budget over and over, but you don't have that money.
And keep spending at unprecedented levels. That's exactly right, Tony. And if people are listening carefully out there, they'll say, wait a minute, I thought COVID began in 2020, so why aren't you returning to 2019 levels? Remember that you've got in the discretionary spending, you got our national security military spending on the one hand, You also have all these other agencies. Most of the COVID spending, although a significant amount of it probably is in the military too, but certainly most of it in the change of operations and massive permanent expenditure plans, or these expansions that have occurred in the rest of bureaucracy. And so in order to get to a 2022 spending level, which is the deal, the military will continue to have enough to do what it needs to do for our national security and to continue to pursue new weapons programs and things like that. But really what it'll result in is that for the rest of the bureaucracy, they're going to have to return to pre-COVID spending levels. And why on earth not?
Right.
Why should you, just because an emergency occurred, assume that we're going to have government stay bigger in all of our lives for the rest of history? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
That was never the plan. That was never discussed in either chamber when that emergency funding was approved. In fact, it was to the contrary. So now they just use this as a baseline. So, Congressman Bishop, when do we expect a vote on the Limit, Save, Grow Act?
So at least as of the weekend, my understanding was we hope to have a vote tomorrow on Wednesday, and I haven't heard different. I think in any event, everybody who's been involved here is certainly of the mind that we need to do it this week. We could let it slip to Thursday or even Friday if necessary, but I'm hopeful that we have everybody on board. There's no last minute second questions coming up, right. But I would say either tomorrow or Thursday.
Well, if you've got the votes, the sooner the better. You don't want to wait around. I want to switch gears. The president this morning announcing he is running for re-election. I want to play a clip from his announcement video of what he had to say today. Clip number 4, please.
MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what health care decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote.
Sounds like a dog whistle to me. Your reaction?
Most divisive, animosity-creating president I think I've ever seen in my life, and one that is so incompetent. Couldn't figure that anybody could trump the incompetence of Jimmy Carter, but he's done it. He always wants to use that phrase, that MAGA extremists everywhere. Chip Roy had a good line in an op-ed today that in the spending bill that we're talking about, we'd like to take spending for fiscal year 24 to about the level that MAGA extremist Barack Obama projected back in his presidency. And he didn't believe in underspending. But I tell you, this particular president has been a sad story for the United States. We're exposed to so many weaknesses and consequence of it abroad. We have debilitating damage in terms of inflation and other problems in our economy. It's time to turn a page, but he'll do what he's going to do, I guess.
Congressman, we just have about 20 seconds left, but he repeats this claim that Republicans want to cut Social Security.
It's amazing. I saw the same thing in his video. It's just a blatant, brazen lie that it has been the opposite of what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that every Republican in every position of leadership has said that is absolutely false. We're going to protect Social Security. We're going to protect Medicare. This is about the expanded spending that has taken place over the last 4 years. It's
cutting that woke and weaponized bureaucracy that wants to take away those rights that he says he wants to preserve. So
it's amazing to me that they can how blatant they are in lying. I mean, it's so blatant. It's unbelievable. Congressman Dan Bishop, always great to see you. Thanks so much for taking time to join us today.
Thanks, Tony. Good to be with you.